Welcome to chapter 8 of the book of 2 Corinthians. This chapter changes a little from Paul's earlier part of the letter and goes into a subject. And the subject is a collection of money for the poor people. And he is in Macedonia, doesn't say which cities, but we believe it was probably Philippi and Thessalonica. And because they are in Macedonia, and those were the two large churches that he began. And chapter 8, the collections, continues in through almost to the end of chapter 9. If I was dividing the chapters, I would have probably not have divided it this way. I would have kept it until the end of chapter 9, where it changes the subject a little bit. But anyway, it is what it is. And it continues with Paul saying, "But we make known to you, Adelphi, brothers, the favor of God having been given in the assemblies of Macedonia." Philippi, probably Thessalonica, like I mentioned. The favor is mainly as a contribution is what he's talking about in this case. Now, it doesn't mean favors. Every place is a contribution, but this is what he's basically talking about. So he's making it known to them that these churches have given money to go to Jerusalem. And basically, as we go through these two chapters, the Corinthians haven't been as generous in their collections and sending. So therefore, he's writing this subject to them. Then he continues that in much proof of affliction and the abundance of their joy, and the depth according to their poorness abounded to the riches of their simplicity. They didn't have a lot of money, and they were going through afflictions, the Christians there, probably with the nations, the Jews and so forth. And so those people, they may have had things taken away from them, like Jesus mentions, which will happen to Christians. They'll be robbed of their goods and treated poorly because of him. And that's what happened to the Jews in Jerusalem. It mentions that where Jesus was going to the temple, the people were told that anybody that would acknowledge him as Christ would be cast out of the synagogues. And when he healed the lame, or was a blind man, the parents were called to prove that he was who he was, the blind man, and they were afraid to speak out because of being thrown out of the synagogue. And so apparently that happened to many of them, because as that was happening, Paul was sent out early in 36 AD to take him back and put him in prison. So the Judaism, the Jewish people were really cruelest to their own who had been leaving, and they were left. Many of them were probably left destitute, and so now they were taking monies for these people in Jerusalem. And he continues, "For according to their power," or their ability, I would like to think, "I witness, and above their power, their enthusiasm, with much consolation, beseeching us the favor and the fellowship." So these people were enthusiastic about helping the Jews in Jerusalem, and when gave more than maybe they could have, they were very generous. And so he brings this up to these Corinthians who apparently weren't. Fellowship of the diakonias, the service for the holy ones, for us to receive it, and the holy ones, the saints in Jerusalem, for us to receive it. They're happy, the Macedonians happy to give it to them, to take care of it, to get it to Jerusalem. And not only as we hope, but of themselves they gave first to the Lord and to us through the will of God. So they gave first to the Lord, could possibly mean the contribution to the Jews, and then they gave to to them, to Paul and to the people there that were with him, Timothy and Titus. So that we appeal to Titus that as he began before, so also he should complete with you also this collection, basically. Titus's first mission was to the Corinthians earlier, and now he brought back news of the acceptance and the changes in the Corinthian church, how they're taking care of these problems, and caused Paul to decide to write this second letter to them, and that he's going to send it back again with Titus. But as in every way you abound in belief, in word and knowledge, and all diligence, and in the love from you to us, that is the Corinthians. See that also in this favor you should abound. Help in the collections, basically. Now, not according to command I speak, but through the diligence of others, that's the Macedonians, and the proving of the genuineness of your love. This will prove it by giving the money. If you don't help with the church, then that sort of proves that you really don't care a whole lot. It'd be almost like a parent that didn't help the family and didn't work and give money for the family and the children. It'd be stingy. For you know the favor of our Lord Jesus Christ. Now, the favor here wasn't a money contribution, but it was what? That for you he became poor, being rich. That you, by that one's poorness, should be enriched. And Christ was poor. He didn't have a house to live in. He went around for 3 or 4 years preaching and healing people. But yet his richness was poured out as far as the forgiveness of sins and the healings that he accomplished in his lifetime, and still does. And an opinion in this I give. This is his opinion. For this is advantageous to you, who not only the doing, but also the wanting began a year ago. So he's not trying to force them to do these things. The ones who not only doing, but there's a plural right here. And an opinion in this I give, for this is advantageous to you, the ones who not only the doing, but also the wanting began before a year ago. They wanted to help, but apparently they weren't really doing anything about it except talking. But now also the doing, complete it, so that just as the eagerness of the thing wanted, so also the completing from out of the having it. So a lot of people have good thoughts about helping somebody, but when it actually comes to doing it, the actions don't follow. So this is what is happening here. For if the eagerness is situated according to whatever anyone should have, it is well received, for it is not according to what he does not have. Now, it's interesting, we're here, there's nothing mentioned about a tithe. The tithe was for the Jews in the Old Testament, but we don't hear anything about it in the New Testament as far as what they should be doing, and which is good, because now people can give 20%, 30%, 40, 50, 60, whatever they want. They weren't limited to 10%, which a lot of people probably, once they heard about the tithe and they grew up in the tithe, Jews, and that's all they wanted to give. It's like a tax. Who wants to pay more to the IRS? Nobody. But if you really knew you were giving something, your money was really being used wisely, which is questionable with the IRS, Internal Revenue Service. If you don't know what I'm talking about, if you're from another country, it's the American tax collector. It's not, who knows how well it's being spent, but if you know it's being spent wisely, then you receive it better and send out money and help the ministry. I've never asked for any donations. There is a place for donations when you download the free Bible, and that's to help support the cost of the internet and the buying of equipment here and doing these Bible seminars. But from out of, for it is not that others have liberty, but to you affliction. I'm not making it where you have to do it, nobody else. But from out of equality in the present time, that your abundance be for their deficiency. So he wants it equally. Whoever needs it, then whoever's abundant helps the person who has a deficiency. That also in their abundance should be for your deficiency, if that happens, so that equality takes place. As it has been written, this is in Exodus 16:18, at the collecting together the Jews of the mother quail in their wilderness, the one gathering much was not superabundant, and the one gathering few did not have less. But gratitude be to God, to the one giving the same diligence over you in the heart of Titus. This is the diligence, giving the same diligence basically of mine, but he didn't put that. It's an elision, but that's what I think he's talking about. But gratitude be to God, to the one giving the same diligence of mine over you in the heart of Titus. For the comfort indeed he received. But more diligent, being enthusiastic, he came forth to you. He went there. And we sent with him the brother of whom the high praise is in the good news through all the assemblies. Now this is probably for this letter here. It doesn't mention who this brother is. There's books and come up with possibilities of different people. I'm not going to really go into that because I suppose it really doesn't matter. Whoever it was, God knows. And not only so, but also handpicked by the ecclesion, the assemblies. This person had high praise, and he was picked by the assemblies, possibly somebody from Thessalonica or Philippi that we've read about, for our traveling companion with this contribution, favor, which is being served by us to the glory of the Lord himself, and to show your eagerness. Or pros. Here I have pros too, which it could be far, and it could read, but which is being served by us for the glory of the Lord himself, to show your eagerness. Getting in readiness for this, lest anyone should scoff at us in the vigor by which this is being served by us. So he wants them to prepare for when he's coming, to have this ready so he doesn't have to go through trying to get them to give money or talking about it or so. But that would be on their own without his coercion or thinking about it, talking about it. Thinking beforehand good things, not only before the Lord, but also before men. And we sent together with them our brother, another one that we don't know, whom we approved, being diligent in many things often, but now much more diligent in much reliance towards you. So these people are leaving, going to the Corinthians with the hope of bringing this letter and having them prepare for the contribution. And whether for Titus, my partner, and for you, a fellow worker, you being the Corinthians, or whether of our brothers, apostles of assemblies, the glory of God, the reliance in much, and the diligence. Well, the demonstration then of your love and our boasting for you, demonstrate to them and in front of the assemblies. So he's encouraging them so that he can boast about them. And sort of like me boasting about this Texan who did the good deed for the Apostolic Bible. Continues in chapter 9, and we will continue the same subject here. And hope you'll join us in chapter 9, and God bless.